Atheists went into the Saudi Arabian desert to prove the Bible wrong. What they found instead left them completely speechless. We're talking about physical evidence, carved in stone, that's been sitting there for over 3,000 years. Evidence that even the harshest critics can't explain away. And it all centers around one of the most controversial stories in the Bible, the golden calf. For centuries, scholars called it a myth, a made-up tale with a moral lesson. There's no way, they said, that this actually happened. But now, those same skeptics are standing in the desert, staring at something they never expected to find. Before continuing, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and like this video if you want to spread God's truth. Let's back up for a second. In the book of Exodus, chapter 32, Moses is up on Mount Sinai talking with God. He's been gone for 40 days, and down below, the people are getting nervous. They go to Aaron, Moses' brother, and basically say, "Hey, Moses is gone. We don't know if he's coming back. We need new gods to follow." So what does Aaron do? He collects everyone's gold jewelry, melts it down, and creates a golden calf. Then the people throw a party around it, saying, "This is what brought us out of Egypt." Think about that timing. They had just been rescued from slavery. They'd seen miracles. And now they're worshiping a statue at the exact same mountain where God showed up in fire and smoke. That's not just breaking the rules, that's straight up betrayal. Most historians thought this was just symbolic. A story with a moral, not something that actually happened. But then someone found something in the desert. In Saudi Arabia, at the base of a mountain called Jabal al-Lawz, there's a stone structure that doesn't make sense. It's made of huge rocks arranged like a boundary or an altar. And all over these rocks, there are carvings. Lots of them. But here's the thing, they're not normal carvings for that area. Most ancient rock art in Arabia shows camels, hunters, maybe some local animals. These carvings? Bulls. Calves. Egyptian-style cattle images. Dozens of them. Why would Egyptian imagery show up in the middle of the Arabian desert? Unless, of course, people who had just come from Egypt were the ones who carved them. This isn't random artwork. This looks like a worship site. And it's sitting right at the base of the mountain that many researchers now believe is the real Mount Sinai. The same mountain where, according to the Bible, the golden calf incident happened. The stones have been sitting there for over 3,000 years, like a frozen snapshot of that moment when Israel said, "These are our gods." Here's where it gets even crazier. The golden calf altar isn't the only thing they found. The mountain itself, Jabal al-Lawz, has a blackened peak. Like something scorched it from above. The Bible says Mount Sinai was covered in smoke because God came down on it in fire. Nearby, there's this massive rock. We're talking several stories tall. And it's split completely in half, right down the middle. Around it, you can see ancient water channels, in a desert where there are no rivers. Sound familiar? The Bible talks about Moses striking a rock at Horeb, and water pouring out for the people to drink. Then there's a spot with palm trees and natural springs, 12 springs, specifically. The Bible mentions a place called Elim where the Israelites camped, with 12 springs and 70 palm trees. All of these locations are in the same area. They all match the biblical descriptions. And they all point to the same conclusion. At the center of it all sits that altar, covered with bull carvings, sealed off now by the Saudi government. It's like a 3,000-year-old crime scene. When an amateur archaeologist named Ron Wyatt first talked about these discoveries decades ago, people laughed at him. They said he was making it up. But the evidence is still there. And more people are starting to pay attention. Here's the wild part. When Ron Wyatt first brought this to people's attention, almost nobody believed him. Academics dismissed him. Even a lot of Christians thought he was just connecting dots that weren't there. People said he was seeing what he wanted to see. That he was chasing fantasies in the desert. But then something changed. Skeptics went to see for themselves. Atheists who wanted to prove him wrong made the trip. And when they got there, they couldn't deny what they were looking at. The altar is real. The carvings are there. The location lines up exactly with what the Bible describes. What people called a myth for centuries. It's sitting in the desert right now, carved into stone. Okay, so there's ancient evidence that matches a Bible story. Cool discovery, right? But why should we care today? Because the golden calf story isn't really about ancient history. It's about us. Think about what happened. These people had witnessed incredible things. They saw the plagues in Egypt. They watched the Red Sea part in front of them. They ate food that literally fell from the sky. And then just weeks later, they're bowing down to a statue they made themselves. How does that even happen? Here's the thing, idols are easy. They give us something we can see. Something we can touch. Something that feels like it's under our control. Following God? That requires trust. That requires faith in something bigger than what we can hold in our hands. That altar in the desert is more than just an archaeological site. It's a warning that's been sitting there for thousands of years. It's saying, don't trade something real for something you made up yourself. But here's what really gets me about this discovery. If those stones preserved Israel's biggest failure, then they also preserve something else, God's response. Because the story doesn't end with a golden calf. God forgave them. He kept his promise. He still led them toward the land he said he would give them. The rebellion was real. But so was the redemption. So here we are. People who set out to prove the Bible wrong ended up finding one of the most stunning pieces of evidence for it instead. In the Saudi Arabian desert, at the base of a burned mountain, there's an altar covered with images of bulls and calves. Around it, the split rock with water channels. The springs that match the biblical description. The land of Midian, where Moses lived. Even a possible crossing point through the Gulf of Aqaba, where Israel might have passed through. Everything the Bible described is there. The rebellion happened. The altar is real. And for 3,000 years, those stones have been holding on to the memory that people tried to forget. There's a verse in the Bible where Jesus says if people stay quiet, the stones themselves will cry out. That's in Luke, chapter 19. Well, in the Arabian desert, those stones are crying out right now. They're telling us the Bible got it right. They're reminding us that this isn't just ancient mythology. These were real people, real events, real history. And God's promises? They're still real too. If this discovery blew your mind like it did mine, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. And hit that like button. It really helps get this story out to more people. Because if stones can remember the truth for 3,000 years, maybe it's time we started paying attention to what they have to say.